Tom Abbate, and today we're going to talk about white-collar crime and fraud. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that these two things generally kind of go in hand-to-hand a little bit. Typically, whenever we're talking about white-collar crime, we're talking about some kind of a crime that was committed, as a sham business transaction of some sort. Typically, that will involve some sort of fraud. So, for instance, you could be looking at securities and exchange fraud, something like insider trading, where the person is representing that they know nothing about the transactions that they're entering into, but in reality, they already know, hey, this company is about to go under. They haven't released their numbers, so I'm going to get on the stock exchange and I'm going to start selling my stock now, even though I have information that's not publicly available. And that's how they kind of tie into each other. The other thing that they tie into typically is going to be some sort of theft. One of the big ones is embezzlement. I work for a company. I have been stealing money from that company because maybe I'm an accountant or something like that. I'm handling the books, and every transaction that goes through this company, I'm snipping off a couple of dollars here and there, which is enough to where it won't be noticed on each transaction. But if it's a large company that does, let's say thousands of transactions a month, that could lead to a lot of money on my part that I've stolen. Now, the thing to keep in mind with a lot of these charges is that it's going to depend on the amount of money that was stolen or defrauded in terms of determining what level of offense this is. For instance, back with embezzlement, the punishments are largely similar to, say, a theft or a larceny, and depending on the amount that was embezzled will determine what level of offense that we're dealing with, whether that be a misdemeanor or a felony or a low-level felony or a high-level felony. The other thing that you've got to keep in mind with white-collar crimes and fraud specifically is that there is an additional charge that can be tacked on for mail or wire fraud. This is whenever you use either the postal service or the electronic lines in order to accomplish your overall fraud or theft. So, for instance, if, let's say, when doing this embezzlement scheme that I've got going on, I am doing it with wire transfers, in the sense that I tell the company, okay, it's going to be $100. That's what to pay this bill. It's actually only $98. I have them wire the money into my account, and then I pay the $98 and keep the $2. Now, that's just tied in the wires and the electronic communication system for the banking system, and so including my embezzlement charge, I will also probably be charged with wire fraud. Mail fraud is whenever you do the same thing, but you're using the postal service in order to accomplish it. So in that instance, maybe I write a letter to my client telling them that it's $100. They mail me a check for $100. I mail out a check for $98 and keep the $2 difference that I've defrauded off of them. That's how the postal service can come in. And then you get charged with, mail fraud, which will incur additional penalties because of the way that scheme was accomplished. Now, these are very complex cases. They're almost always very complex cases because you're having to deal with a lot of accounting, a lot of math, exactly how the scheme was set up. One of the things that we'll typically we will do whenever we're hired on a case like that is maybe look for a forensic accountant to go back and go through all of the documents and all of the transactions to kind of figure out whether or not the state's case holds any water. So it's very important that you hire an attorney and you hire experienced counsel, because these cases can be so complex. The third reason why you need to make sure you hire an attorney is that, you know, these are still crimes, and even though they look like business transactions, they're non-violent. You know, nobody robbed anyone at gunpoint, no one was put in fear of their life. They still carry criminal penalties, which can include prison time. And so it's very important that you hire experienced counsel, because if you